Well, this is not what I expected at all to come out this weekend to see, Glenn Greenwald being a fucking cross-dressing bottom. Everybody knew he was gay, right? So that didn't shock anybody. Like, uh, him being a massive degenerate also shouldn't be that shocking. And really, from what I can see, nobody's truly shocked by the fact that he's a total degen. Um, Well, maybe some people are a little shocked at just how degenerate he is, but he's not like completely. I wasn't shocked um, at all. But it is still insane that Glenn Greenwald, got his sex tape leaked with a fucking prostitute and what seems to be, drugs on one of the tables in the background. Pretty crazy stuff. Like I said, I didn't see this coming. Now, to let me get right in there. I've never particularly liked Glenn Greenwald. Yeah, he's reported on some good stories. He's had some good takes over the years. Done some good journalism. Fine, whatever. I always saw him for what he is, a shit lib, and that's what he is. He's a shit lib. I always felt like some people called him principled. I called him, a guy that likes to play both sides. But he's not a fence sitter. He's very clearly a fucking leftist, but he he tried to play both sides. He wanted everybody to like him. And I don't know, he never sat well with me. I never particularly cared for him. I never really liked him. I never like signal boosted him. I never praised him on X or anywhere else. I never saw Glenn Greenwald is one of the good ones. No, I've never particularly cared for him. So, and Schadenfreude, I like seeing people who I don't like, suffer. I enjoy it. I admit it. I'm a bad person. But yeah, shout out to the Daily Beast. I don't think I've ever used them as a source before, or as a whatever. Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Glenn Greenwald has come out swinging at his political enemies, who he claims are responsible for leaking a sex tape of him with another man. Now, allegedly, he accidentally leaked it himself on his own X account or somewhere. I don't know. I haven't seen that post. That's just what I hear. So, the Fox News favorite, whose work reporting on Edward Snowden's NSA surveillance leak won him a Pulitzer Prize in 2014, released a statement calling the release of his sex tapes maliciously political. Greenwald, who is openly gay, said it was posted online without his knowledge or consent and was therefore criminal. He described them as videos, though so far only one has surfaced. It was quickly deleted from free speech site Rumble, which is partly owned by the FBI's Deputy Director, Dan Bongino. This was Glenn's statement. Last night, videos were released online depicting. Or yeah, I said that they posted on X. My bad. Last night, videos were released online depicting behavior in my private life. Some were distorted and others were not. They were published without my knowledge or consent, and its publication was therefore criminal. Though we do not know yet exactly who is responsible, we are close to knowing, and the motive is a maliciously political one. Yeah, people are trying to automatically say Israel did it, because Glenn Greenwald is very anti-Israel. He's one of the Jews that doesn't like Israel, which fine, whatever. But it's just classic. Everything bad that ever happened ever in history is Israel's fault, including this. Now, keep in mind, it's funny that this guy has been critical of Israel for pretty much his entire career, and they waited till 2025 to try to destroy him. It just doesn't seem to make sense. Doesn't make sense to me, anyway. As for the content of the videos, I have no embarrassment or regret about them. I mean, he's doing some really fucking degenerate shit. Allegedly, the guy in the video with him was a Brazilian prostitute. There's allegedly drugs on the table. The videos depict depicts consenting adults engaged in intimate actions in their private lives. They all display fully consensual behavior, harming nobody. Obviously, it can be uncomfortable and unpleasant when your private behavior is made public against your will. That's why the behavior is private in the first place. But the only wrongdoing here is the criminal and malicious publication of the videos in an attempt to malign perceived political enemies and advance a political agenda. Others are, of course, free to form their own judgments, as some are prone to do about others' private lives. It won't change my work. I will continue all the many prongs of my journalism and pursue the causes most important to me exactly as before. Yes, such as you know, lying about Donald Trump and trying to shame Israel for fighting a defensive war. Um, yeah, so yeah, your journalism is top shelf stuff. You know, signal boosting Russiagate and stuff like that. Yeah, all the good journalists. Yeah, so he was right on Snowden. Big whoop. So he was right on the J6ers. Big whoop. Like I said, he's a fence sitter. He plays both sides. I've never particularly liked him. Now, just for the record, I actually tend to agree. What consenting adults do in their private life is nobody's business, but obviously don't fucking record it. That's bad for business, especially if it gets leaked out. And if you are going to record it, make sure you're recording it in some kind of digital camera that has no connection to the internet so that your shit can't get hacked. And then the other thing is, of course, if it is true that he accidentally leaked it himself, then of course he's going to turn around and fucking try to claim that this was a political hit job. So I don't know. I don't believe anything the guy says. He's over the years he's had no problem lying about Donald Trump. So what else is he lying about? Some were distorted, others were not. Greenwald said about the clips. The 58-year-old who lost his partner of 18 years, Brazilian lawmaker David Miranda, in 2023 after a life-threatening illness, said he didn't know exactly who was responsible for the leak, but that he is close to knowing, and the motive was a maliciously political one. If you don't know who did it, then you don't quite know. I mean, you automatically assuming that this was leaked against your will for a political, and it probably was, but you don't know that yet. As for the content of the videos, I have no embarrassment or regret about them. The videos, yeah. But anyway, again, like there's a discourse on the right now about how like, oh, see, this is why right wingers shouldn't cozy up to gays because they're all degenerate sex freaks. Not literally all of them. Some of them just like to have kind of like normie vanilla sex just with the same sex. I would say that's actually most of them. Like the blowback from this Glenn Greenwald thing has got a bunch of right wingers not only attacking him but attacking like other like right wing gays, like Scott Pressler, who is never been a problem to my knowledge. And I'm not out here ready to kick Scott Pressler out of the tent just because Glenn Greenwald, who is not in the tent in the first place. That's the other thing. Glenn, like Scott Pressler admits explicitly that he's a Republican and that he's right wing. I don't think he's ever called himself conservative. If he has, well, I think I do tend to agree. It is hard to be like in the modern day kind of interpretation of what the word conservative means. It is hard to be conservative and gay at the same time. At least in the American context, there's literally a conservative party in England, for instance, and you can be gay and a conservative in that case, a la the fuck's his name, Douglas Murray. Um, but no, in the American interpretation of what conservative means, yeah, sure, it's probably not. It's probably a hard sell to claim that you are conservative and gay at the same time. Right wing and gay, that's how I would describe it. I try to describe myself as right wing and not necessarily conservative. Um, but yeah, like I'm not ready to kick Scott Pressler out of the tent. Scott Pressler is the fucking is the man probably most responsible for Trump winning Pennsylvania. And as far as I know, and I'm willing to be corrected on this if somebody can show me evidence to the contrary, but Scott Pressler isn't doing, gay humiliation rituals with male prostitutes. You know, Scott Pressler isn't allegedly smoking crack. So, Scott Pressler isn't sucking dick in bathroom stalls at nightclubs. He's not, Scott Pressler isn't marching in gay pride parades and advocating for surrogacy and IVF for gay men or gay adoption. He's just a right wing Republican guy who happens to be gay and kind of effeminate with his long hair and his ridiculous boots. But the point is that like I don't want, and Dave Rubin, like we can talk about the whole IVF surrogacy thing. Like I'm open to that. It is like kind of like the ethics of gay men using IVF and surrogacy to have their own children. Like I'm willing to have that conversation. But Dave Rubin, other than that, like little kind of caveat, is not some degenerate pride, trans the kids, drag queen story hour. Like I said, sucking dick in the bathroom stall at the nightclub gay. He's just like a normie gay you know who is at least on our side in almost all other in all other ways. The only and the funny thing is, if you ask people to criticize, Scott Pressler or Dave Rubin, they can never attack. Well, I mean, they'll attack Dave Rubin because of the IVF surrogacy thing to have the two kids, but other than that, they can never attack Dave Rubin on the issues because he has good takes on almost all the other issues. He's a super Zionist, but he's Jewish, so of course that's kind of to be expected. But Scott Pressler is actually a better example because other than Scott Pressler being gay, nobody can attack him on the issues because he's rock solid. I've never heard him say anything that I fundamentally disagree with. He's been a staunch Trump ally. He is the guy who got Trump elected in Pennsylvania. He went and campaigned with the Amish. He did everything he could, and it worked. And he's probably going to make sure that Pennsylvania stays red in the midterms. And that or he's doing his damnedest to make that the case. And I'm not ready to boot his ass out of the party because a degenerate gay leftist got his sex tape leaked. A Trump-hating, degenerate gay leftist got his sex tape leaked. That's not Scott Pressler's fault. That's not Dave Rubin's fault. I can't remember the gay black dude who's also a Republican. I think you guys know who I'm talking about, though. He's been on Tim Pool a couple times. I don't know. Maybe I don't know much about that guy. Again, I'm open to if you show me like I said, that black dude whose name I can't recall. I apologize, sir. Or if you could show me Scott Pressler or Dave Rubin doing any of the truly degenerate, pride gay shit, I'm willing to have, I'm more than willing to admit that I'm wrong about them, but not in this case. I'm not willing to, just kick all of the totally reasonable, normal, just rational gay people out of the tent just because Glenn Greenwald is a fucking degenerate. The Daily Beast has seen the videos and decided not to disclose what takes place. He's crawling on the floor, licking the dude's feet, and sucking spit up off the floor, and wearing girls' clothes. That's what he's doing in the videos. It is clear that they feature Greenwald, albeit dressed in a plaid miniskirt and some sort of bikini top. In the footage, Greenwald does appear to send around $1,750, about 10,000 Brazilian reals, to an account via PayPal for the encounter. Yeah, he's paying a prostitute. Yeah. So, Greenwald has released the same statement on X in Portuguese. Greenwald left The Guardian in 2014 to co-found the left-leaning digital and opinion site The Intercept, where he was editor until he resigned in 2020 with a tirade about how he was being censored by it. The Intercept hit back by accusing him of not understanding the role of editor and having a tantrum. He now publishes his own newsletter and has had something of a MAGA conversion, regularly appearing on Fox News even to bash the outlet he founded. Now, he hasn't had something of a MAGA conversion. Okay, the dude is not a fan of Trump, as I will demonstrate in a moment. Quote, these millennial digital liberal outlets like The Intercept, BuzzFeed, The Huffington Post, so many of them, they think that if you're a conservative, you're not really a journalist, he told Laura Ingraham. You're not conservative, you're a leftist. Earlier this month, Greenwald slammed CNN journalist Jake Tapper, accusing him of hypocrisy over the promotion of his book on the cognitive health of former President Joe Biden, entitled Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. Greenwald said Tapper was one of the primary people in the media, not just covering it up and denying it, but aggressively attacking him, aligning the character of anyone who was raising this. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Jake Tapper is a cunt. Many people online expressed support for Greenwald in the wake of the sex tape leak. I don't know who Drexel is, and I don't really care. Jessica Berlin, Glenn Greenwald's private life, irrelevant and private, his Russian propaganda, disgusting. Yeah, okay, so this person was whatever. Meanwhile, Greenwald, who is a father of 2 children, he adopted them, has vowed that the leak won't change his work. Yeah, I already read all that stuff. Obviously, it can be uncomfortable. Yeah. I will continue I will continue all the many prongs of my journalism and pursue the cause most important to me, exactly as before. Yeah. So, again, this entire situation is kind of nuts because, it's again, if you knew that Glenn Greenwald was gay and then you see him doing this shit, it doesn't shock me that gay men are into stuff like this because there are plenty of straight people who are into findom, shit like that, whatever. So, people are degenerate, gay, straight, everybody could be a degen. But again, if you're shocked at seeing Glenn Greenwald being gay, it's like, well, everybody already knew he was gay. So, But no, that's what I said. He hates Trump. Like let me make that abundantly clear. He did not have a MAGA conversion. He was part of the RussiaGate hoax. Like he did not. He has never been a Trump fan. He's a leftist at the end of the day. He's not a Republican. He's not conservative. He's not right wing. He is fundamentally at his core a lefty. And I'm more concerned with us cozying up to shit libs than I am cozying up to gays. I think shit libs are a bigger problem. Now, it just so happens that most gays are shit libs. So sure, but I'm more than happy to, break bread with like, right wing gay people. I've got no problem with it. I've said this many times on my podcast. I was red pilled by a gay guy. A gay guy. I was a shit lib in high school and in my early 20s. I was a total shit lib. I voted for Obama. And then Obama's first term, the first like year or 2 years of his term was such a fucking disaster. I was super black pilled, and then he came to me, and he and I had been friends, and he'd been like right wing and like fans of Republicans and all these things like ever since he and I knew each other. And he put up with me being a shit lib and constantly calling him like all kinds of shit all the time. I called him racist before because I literally was. That's how shit lib I was. I accused him of being racist for not supporting Barack Obama. You know, but no, he put up with that shit for years, and then whenever like I finally was like completely black pilled after the Obama administration, and I realized that I'd been duped, he was like, he was just like, listen, this is what it is, and then he introduced me to Ron Paul, and then a couple years after that, he introduced me to Ayn Rand, and the rest is history. I wouldn't be here, this adorable, bespectacled talking cat on the fucking on YouTube. I'm gonna get a different model eventually, but I wouldn't be here on the right, a part of this in this tent, a part of this coalition, if it wasn't for my gay best friend. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So I'm never gonna completely turn my back on the gays who want to be a part of this coalition. You know. But no, Jason Whitlock, serious, thoughtful replies only. Can you separate Glenn Greenwald's courageous journalism from his immoral, degenerate personal life? Now, immoral, degenerate. Jason Whitlock's a Christian, so of course he's going to feel that way. Is there scripture to guide us here? Please share. Thanks. So let's see what dog shit Glenn Greenwald decided to respond to Jason Whitlock with. And remember, like I said, never particularly liked Glenn Greenwald, even if he had some good takes about Snowden and the NSA and the J6ers and stuff like that. Whatever. Serious, thoughtful question. How have you been able to separate what you regard as Donald Trump's inspired and noble political leadership from the repeated behaviors in his private life, long considered deeply immoral and degenerate under the most widespread and longstanding Christian and Western moral dogma? Donald Trump's a philanderer, okay? You're paying prostitutes and allegedly smoking crack, okay? You're paying prostitutes and allegedly doing drugs. Okay, there's a difference between being a bit of a philanderer, being unfaithful to your wife, whatever, and you licking the bottom of a man's feet and sucking his spit up off the floor. Okay, the two things, even if, like, let's take the Glenn Greenwald video. Let's say he's straight. Everything's the same. He's living in Brazil. He pays a female Brazilian prostitute $2,000 so he can lick the bottom of her feet and suck her spit up off the floor while he's wearing a mini skirt and a bikini bra top, and there seems to be what appears to be a crack or meth pipe or some kind of drug paraphernalia on the table behind him. It's still degenerate and still puts you firmly below Donald Trump on the degeneracy tier list, or above. I don't know how you would say that, but like there's a difference between being a bit of a philanderer, or a bit. There's a difference between being a philanderer and then doing that kind of shit. There's a chasm of difference between the two things. Overlapping affairs and marriages. Yeah, this is him claiming that he was married to overlapping marriages. Does that imply that he was courting the one wife while still married to the other, or is he implying that he broke the law by being married to two women at the same time? Serial adulteries, affairs with porn stars that he paid to cover up. Yeah, no, according to Stormy Daniels' own statement, which she recanted later on and then sued him later on, but, according to her, the affair never happened. So, whatever. Why are we taking... He claims it never happened. She used to claim that it never happened and then changed her tune later on. Why are we taking her word for it? Why is the word of a a porno whore like more valuable than Donald Trump's? I don't know. Do I tend to think Donald Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels? Yeah, probably. But you know, did he probably pay to cover it up? Sure, maybe. But again, he's a philanderer. Everybody knows that. That's not, I mean, again, being a philanderer is not as degenerate as paying a prostitute to like let you lick his feet and suck his spit up off the floor. Um, Closely convorting, and this is the part that really pissed me off, closely convorting with Jeffrey Epstein after he was publicly convicted of sex trafficking of minors, boasting of grabbing women. See, no, that is not fucking true. And this is what I say, Glenn Greenwald, when he wants to, is a fucking liar. That has been debunked 10,000 times, okay? Long before Jeffrey, first of all, him and Jeffrey Epstein were never that close. Yes, they ran in the same circles. I have a few pictures together. They were not super close friends. They knew each other. Now, did Trump, in the years before he got his first trafficking conviction, did Trump glaze Epstein a little bit? Yes, but that's what he does with people he's trying to do business with. He glazes them a little bit. Again, years ago, almost 20 years ago, Trump said publicly, he likes very young girls. That's all I could say about it. But I don't like him. I never liked him. He likes very young girls. It's bad. Like, this was a long time ago. He tried to warn people that Jeffrey Epstein was bad. And then there's the famous story of Jeffrey Epstein being at a party at Mar-a-Lago, making a pass at one of Trump's friend's daughters, who was 16 at the time, and having Epstein thrown out on his ass by security, and then he completely cut ties with him. He never was on Lolita Express. He never flew to Little St. James. Like, there's no evidence for any of this, but he's still more than happy to compare Trump to Epstein in order to shield himself from his own shame. Boasting of grabbing women's pussies without asking. Okay, yeah, that was just a joke that he told Billy Bush. Fuck off. And I could go on and no, you can't go on and on and on, because that's literally all you have. The same tired leftist bullshit tropes that people have been saying about Trump for the last 10 to 15 years. Okay. We'll leave to the side the multiple allegations of sexual assault from various women to whom he wasn't even married to, though one was repeatedly upheld in court. Yeah, no, only one, and the bitch is psycho. And in the court case you're referring to, assuming he's talking about the Burdock Goodman woman whose name I'm blanking on right now, the ruling didn't even find that he actually sexually assaulted her, but that he defamed her after the fact. So, and again, he knows that, but he's trying to deflect from his own shame. For his whole adult life, Trump has lived the life of a libertine Manhattan billionaire, not even close to a paragon of sexual moral virtue. You're still worse than him, Glenn Greenwald. One of the things I've always liked about Trump is he never purported to be a moralist because he knew his life didn't permit that pretense, and it wasn't something he pretended to value, nor, as his many close libertine friends demonstrated or say, his choice of Matt Gaetz as Attorney General this demonstrates, as it was it something he used to judge the moral worth of others. And see, here he is throwing, Matt Gaetz under the bus. Matt Gaetz has never been charged, indicted, or convicted of any of the shit that people have been throwing at him. He never trafficked any minors. Never happened. There's no evidence that it happened. Simple as. But again, he's willing to lie, willing to slander right-wingers and Republicans in order to cover up his own bullshit. Trump obviously didn't care to align his private behavior with the moral judgments of others, only with his own moral codes about right and wrong. Since that's what I judge my own morality, my metrics for asserting my own morality and ethics are based on how I treat others, the work I pursue professionally, and the values I exude, the devotion I have to helping those in need, etc., etc. Except for, Israelis. You got nothing good to say about Israelis. I mean, if Glenn Greenwald had ever condemned Hamas, I would love to see it, because I've never seen it. And not the sexual activity in which I engage with other adults. Those glaring moral deviations never bothered me about Trump. But for his fervent admirers and followers like you who are suddenly grappling with this profound question when it comes to me, how have you reconciled these varied and vast contradictions so peacefully when it comes to someone with far more power named Donald Trump? I appreciate all the generous words about my work over the years, and I believe you're asking this respectfully and in purely good faith. I hope you take my inquiry the same way, because That's how it's intended. This is intended to be a smear against Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz and right wingers who support them to try to cover up your own fucking shame for your own disgusting degeneracy. And just, I shared this out later on too. Don't compare yourself to Trump, mate. You're just not in the same boat. This is this guy Golden said. Shout out to the at the Ashen Tree. Shout out to him. Quote: This is Glenn Greenwald's tweet in response. That's true. I was only married once. Trump was married 3 times, and at least 2 of those marriages overlapped. Again, are you implying that Donald Trump committed a felony? I also was never accused of sexual assault, let alone repeatedly by multiple people. Are you me tooing Donald Trump now? Are we assuming that every woman who has a bone to pick with Donald Trump is not lying? See, this is what I'm talking about. He's more than happy to throw these people under the bus, to throw right wingers under the bus, to suit himself, because he's not one of us. He's not. Not because he's gay, because he's a fucking shit lib. So I agree it's not the same, but the principle is still the same. Like, he doubles down on the lies that he tells. Where's the one? There's one more I'm looking for. I might have to go back and try to find. Shout out to Kangman Lee. Let me go to my profile because I've got it up here. I've got it. Give me a second. Oh, yeah, here it is. It must have got buried in the algorithm. I said when called out on his lies, he doubles down and lies more. Fuck Glenn Greenwald. And yeah, fuck him. This guy said, first thing that must be done is that you provide proof of your accusations that Trump was cavorting with Epstein after his conviction. It has been my understanding Trump banned him from his property and did not hang out with him after his conviction. Yes, you're right. I stand corrected on that point. He knew that, and he said the opposite of it anyway. Trump had close associations with people well known to be sexual predators, not just Epstein, but P. Diddy and others. Him and P. Diddy are both New Yorkers. They had a couple photo ops together. Him and P. Diddy were never friends. Like, what the fuck are you trying to do here? Like I said, he doubles down and spreads more lies because he's ashamed of himself. Though he did get in a fight with Epstein prior to the conviction itself over real estate. No, they had a disagreement over real estate. The relationship ended whenever Epstein tried to make a pass at a 16-year-old girl at Mar-a-Lago. That's what destroyed their relationship. He knows that. He's just happy to lie about it. Because Glenn Greenwald is a shit lib. He's a garbage human being. He's a fucking liar. He's had a few good takes over the years. Good for him. Now I have like like I said, this is why I have Schadenfreude. This is why I feel this way. Because shout out to Laura Loomer. Glenn Greenwald is now attacking President Trump because much of MAGA refuses to indulge Glenn Greenwald's comparison of himself to President Trump as a way to ease the blowback after Greenwald allegedly filmed himself having sex with a black prostitute and engaged in homosexual kink fetish. Many people believe Greenwald uploaded the video himself. Imagine getting exposed for having a gay humiliation fetish and then comparing yourself to Trump on a Sunday morning when half of America is on their way to church. Glenn Greenwald is shameless, and he is. He has no shame. I mean, hell, he said that himself in his own statement about all this. He has no shame. But yeah, no, fuck Glenn Greenwald. Got no respect for him. I don't care about him. He's a shit lib. I don't care about us breaking bread with gays. I care about us breaking bread with shit libs. I do find it hilariously funny though that you know, all of the Christ is King people, all the super hardcore like all gays are bad people who also hate Israel and hate Jews are suddenly okay with gays as long like Misfit Patriot. I don't have the tweet pulled up, but Misfit Patriot, who I've actually grown to respect. At first, I wasn't crazy about him, but I've grown to like him. He said, it's okay to bang dudes as long as you hate Jews. And that's what like the Candace Owens and the Ian Carrolls of the world, that's what they're all saying right now, pretty much. Like, it doesn't matter how gay this man is. He does good journalistic work. Nah, he doesn't. He lies like a lot. And but because he hates Israel, you're going to give him a pass, not only for being a serial liar, but for also being a degenerate homosexual, which you all claim is a problem. I don't claim that's a problem. I mean, certain levels of degeneracy, but even certain levels of degeneracy I find problematic even whenever straight people engage in them. So, everybody can come get it. But, yep, this video was longer than I intended it to be, but it is what it is. But, yeah, of course, follow me on X. As you can see, here's my X. I recently broke 100 followers. We're on the way up. But anyway, if you agree, disagree, please feel free to comment below. If you know anything, like, for instance, prove me wrong about Scott Pressler. Like, because I challenge anyone to prove me wrong about that guy. That guy seems like a straight shooter, and I'll defend him until somebody can give me a reason not to. Same thing. I don't really care about, like, the surrogacy IVF thing. I'm willing to have that conversation. I'm not completely comfortable with it, but I'm not going to let one thing that I find unethical that he did, make me completely throw Dave Rubin under the bus too. I think Dave Rubin does good work. I'm not, but by all means, prove me wrong about either of those guys, especially for Scott Pressler. I dare you to prove me wrong about that guy. But yeah, and then like the video and follow my links, sub to all my other channels, and you know the drill at this point. Throw me a bone.